On Overdrive this week, we drive the new Volkswagen Polo TSI, BMW's new 7 Series, a look at M&M's two-wheeler Gambit, and the rest of this week's motoring news. And Volkswagen's India boss, Arvind Saxena, talks about the company's plans for 2013 and beyond. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. This is your one-stop for everything that you need to know about the world of auto, news, views, reviews and conversation. But let's start things off with news from Volkswagen. The company will be launching the new Volkswagen Polo GT TSI. Another mouthful at the end of this month. Bert got a chance to get a first drive of the car, but he comes back telling us that it's not so much about the car that he's excited, but about the cutting-edge engine. Take a look.
The Volkswagen Polo is such a brilliant little car. Those great looking exteriors, fantastic ride quality, superb handling and that very premium interior. It was definitely the perfect little car for the upwardly mobile Indian. Except that it was let down by a weak range of engines, both petrol and diesels, just didn't match up to the Indians' expectations. But now things are about to change. Volkswagen has plonked the 1.2 litre turbocharged petrol engine under that hood, and let me tell you, it's quite a firecracker.
Unlike most model updates we see in India, the Polo has not had a facelift, with Volkswagen focusing its attention under the skin. So aside from some new badging, slightly sportier seats and aluminium pedals, the GT TSI looks just like any other Polo, until you start it up and put your foot down.
Turbocharged petrol engines. Now, there's an interesting concept, but that is the way the automotive world is moving forward, using small compact petrol engines which are turbocharged to get you the desired power and torque outputs. Now, in the case of the 1.2 litre turbo petrol in this new Polo, what you get is 105 PS of max power and 170 Newton meters of torque. And frankly, that's quite astounding for such a small, low capacity engine.
This car and engine combo will replace the Polo 1.6 in the Indian market, and it's the first time a turbocharged petrol engine has ever made it into a hatchback. When the turbo kicks in at just around 1700 RPM, the hundreds of explosions in the 4 cylinders go supernova. The effect is simply spectacular, and no other petrol hatchback generates the sort of G-force the Polo GT TSI is capable of. Momentum builds up rapidly, and in an outright drag, every other hatchback will be left several lengths behind.
The engine responses, well, is simply brilliant. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this is an absolute firecracker of a car. Acceleration is very brisk, and though we haven't tested it as yet, I expect 0 to 100 to be somewhere close to about 11 to 12 seconds quicker than anything else in the segment so far. The one and only thing the Polo 1.2 TSI now needs is bigger and sharper brakes. It's the only thing lacking on this car. A car especially that can accelerate this quickly also needs immense stopping power. And I think going in for larger and sharper brakes will just do the trick. So Volkswagen definitely needs to pay attention to that aspect of this car.
Another thing this package could also definitely use is better rubber. While the stock Apollo Accelerator tires have been adequate so far, they simply can't deal with the additional shove from the engine and are prone to breaking traction if you floor the throttle from standstill.
Now, turbochargers, well, they weren't only used to enhance power and therefore performance, they are also principally used to improve fuel efficiency. And in the case of the 1.2 litre turbo petrol in the Polo, what you get is 17.5 kilometers per litre. That's the average fuel cycle of this car. It's claimed by ARAI, and that is the best figure achieved for any hatchback in this segment with a petrol engine. And just to show you how good the fuel efficiency in this car is, Volkswagen has mated this turbo petrol to a 7-speed DSG gearbox. Dual clutch system, 7 ratios. Well, sounds like a bit much, but I do expect the car will be expensive, but that an automatic can give you a fuel efficiency of 17.5 on average. What do I say?
The ratios on the DSG box are spaced optimally to maximize efficiency, but it also gives the Polo GT TSI superb drivability. Shifts are reasonably quick, but sadly there are no paddle shifts behind the steering wheel, something that this level of performance demands. Not having paddles also rules out using the engine braking to slow the car down aggressively. And though there is a sport mode, what it essentially does is allows the engine to spin to max revs and shift up only when the tacho needle hits the red line. This transmission also has a manual mode that will allow you to select gears, but the engine map delivers the best results in automatic.
The Volkswagen Polo GT TSI will be positioned at the top of the Polo range of hatchbacks in India. But here's an interesting fact. If you look at the exterior of this car very closely, you will notice that there are the GT and TSI badges all over this car, except there isn't a single Polo badge to be found anywhere on this car. So if you had to walk into a dealership, what would you ask the dealer to sell you? A Polo or a GT TSI?
After our short drive in Goa, I am convinced the 1.2 TSI will become an icon of our times. Like the Swift set new benchmarks for enthusiastic motoring for the masses, the Polo GT TSI will establish a new benchmark as the hot hatch of this decade. But just how many you will see on the roads depends on its as yet unknown premium pricing.
Remember, the Polo was responsible for a very solid start, but since then, it's been kind of going nowhere for the company in India. Perhaps this could be the big break the German giant is looking for. The car will officially be launched on the 29th of April, so on Overdrive next week, you can catch all the information about pricing and a comparison. But on that note, it's time for us to take a break. When we return, we wrap up all the news from the world of auto, and of course, Bert answers your queries on Auto Selector.